This is a demonstration video of the licensed version of the Property Feasibility Study application, Feastudy Professional, and it has been produced by DevFees Proprietary Limited. We are now going to open the existing demonstration feasibility file, Residential Development Demo 2022, from the open window. This file is for the financial feasibility study of a two-stage hypothetical development proposal for 20 townhouses in Double Bay, Sydney. After opening the file, the categorised profit and loss report appears. This report is a summary of the overall financial feasibility for the proposal in question. Data for this file have been entered in data entry windows that can be accessed from the Development main menu options, Development Settings, Costs, and Income. A description for the development can be entered in the Development Identification window. In this window, we can enter the development name, the type of development, and the Australian capital city for the state or territory in which the property is situated. Once the capital city has been selected here, the application loads its data-based stamp duty, rates, and taxes scales for that particular city for the open file. These scales can be edited or replaced by an application update should they be superseded. We can also enter a description and a location for the development and the name of the person or business that prepared the file. The next data entry window is the Development Dates window. Here we specify the inclusive dates over which the development cash flow spans, whether or not we want the cash flow period to be fixed, even if we edit the development reference or completion date, and the starting month for the relevant financial year. A Help button appears here, and one appears in every data entry window in Feastudy. If we click on the Help button for the data entry window, which has our focus, we can get more information on what variables are required for that data entry window. The next window that can be accessed from the Development Settings option of the main menu is the Residual Land Value Calculation window. Here, you can enter your target internal rate of return and/or margin on development cost criteria. The residual land value, which is activated by using this function, is the maximum price we should pay for the development site for the scenario we have entered in this Feastudy development file. Notice how the on-screen profit and loss report recalculates the residual land value and other financial figures for the development proposal when we change the target return criteria and then click on the OK button here. Should we want to undo the last edits done to this data file, we can click on the large Undo button of Feastudy's button bar. We will now look at the Equity and Joint Venture window. In this window, we can inject equity into the development cash flow by one of 5 equity injection methods: as a sum of money, as lump sum installments, as a percentage of the purchase price of the development property, as a percentage of the total costs before interest, or as a percentage of monthly costs before interest. We can also enter the total amount or the percentage of equity injections and the percentage of profit shares for 2 joint venture partners. The next window that we will examine is the Loans and Interest window. Here, we can enter data for primary debt funds and/or secondary debt funds. For each type of loan, we can enter an interest rate for all borrowed funds as a rate for the entire development cash flow, or we can enter different rates for different times over the cash flow period, and, if required, we can enter a finance establishment fee as a percentage of the peak level of debt for the loan or a flat fee. We can also enter the details of a line fee that applies to the maximum limit of the loan for primary debt funds on a monthly basis. Lending interest, which is interest income earned on surplus funds and/or profits during those months that the development cash flow does not have a cumulative net debt, can be entered in this window as well. At this point, we will switch on the Auto Window Shift function of Feastudy. This function allows us to immediately move from one data entry window to the chronologically next data entry window, or Data Items List window when we click the OK or Cancel button of the data entry or list window we have open. We will now examine the Escalation Rates window. In this window, we can enter construction, rent, land, and absolute sell-on income escalation rates. When these rates are greater than zero, relevant variables entered elsewhere in the application are escalated using the development reference date as the base month. Notice how when we click the OK button here, that the activated auto window shift function moves our focus from this data entry window to the GST settings window. In this window, we can enter GST data, such as whether the developer is registered for GST, the GST rate, whether GST is remitted or refunded monthly or quarterly, and whether the margin scheme applies to none, some, or all sell-on income items. Clicking on the Cancel button here moves our focus to the Other Settings window, where we can enter data for the calculation of a contingency amount, development costs per unit of site area, and plot ratio data. The next window is the Edit Land Cost item window. Here we enter the total land purchase price for a land cost item and, where applicable, option, deposit, installment, and settlement details, and the stamp duty payment date for the item. If we click OK at this point, we are taken to the Construction Costs List window, where we will select the first construction cost item window. In this window, we can enter construction cost data for the first stage of the development, or any other kind of construction cost, such as the cost of Stage 1 footings. We can enter each construction cost as a total cost, customised monthly amounts, or as a quantity multiplied by a rate. For two of these three options, we can also select whether we use a straight line or S-curve method for distributing the cost of this construction cost item over its cash flow period. If we want to pause auto window shift for the moment, we can click on the Close button in the top right corner of any window we may have open, and then click on the Auto Window Shift button in the button bar. However, we will leave it switched on for the rest of this presentation. We will now move on to the next category of cost, consultant costs, and open a relevant item. In a consultant costs item window, we can select one of 5 methods regarding the payment of the consultant. The default method is the percentage of linked construction costs method when a construction cost item is entered for the file. We can link the consultant cost item to a particular construction cost item or all construction cost items and determine when and what percentages of the fee are paid at various stages. For example, planning approval stage and working drawing stage. Consultant costs can also be entered as a percentage of sell-on income, also known as development sales. The simplest method of determining a payment of a consultant cost item is the amount paid at a specific date method. The only data that are required for this method are the relevant amount and the date on which it is paid. The next window to be displayed after we click Cancel here and the Close button here is the Rates and Taxes List window, and we will select the first item, which is for council rates. This item came into existence when the capital city Sydney was entered in the capital city field of the Development Identification window. In the case of this council rates and taxes item, the rate is linked by default to the Assessed Unimproved Value, or AUV, which is the item's rating base. We will now move on to the Assessed Values for Rates and Taxes window. Further adjustment to the calculation of rates and taxes amounts can be made by entry of an initial assessed property value or by entry of a differential rate which reduces or increases the size of the rating or taxing base by the size of the differential. The next window for editing or viewing is the Duties and Conveyancing Fees window. When an Australian capital city is entered in the Development Identification window, stamp duties on transfers and mortgages are calculated using the data-based scales for that capital city. But these fees can be alternatively calculated in two different ways: as an amount or as a percentage. Conveyancing fees can also be entered in this window as an amount per quantity or item, or as a percentage of land costs and/or sell-on income. The next window is the Selling and Leasing Fees window, where we can enter selling fees as an amount per quantity or item, or as a percentage of sell-on income, and leasing fees as a percentage of annual rent income. The next window to be displayed after we click OK or Cancel here is the Other Costs Lists window. Other cost item windows are for entering costs which are not appropriately entered in another window. These costs can be entered for a particular month or over a specified period of time. If we click OK at this point and click the Close button here, we are taken to the Sell-on Income List window, where we will select the first sell-on income item. This window is for the entry of development sales data. For residential developments, the calculation method for determining the value of the sell-on income items is either a lump sum or a quantity times by rate. For commercial property developments, the capitalisation of linked rents may be used to calculate the value of a sell-on income item. If we want the income from this item to be projected as being received into our development cash flow over more than 1 month, then we can check the relevant checkbox and enter the relevant start and end dates for this. We will now move to the Rent Income List window. Rent income item windows enable the entry of rent income data for the development cash flow. In this scenario, it is anticipated that the developer receives no rent before the townhouses are sold, and therefore no rent details have been entered. The next window is the Other Income List window, from which we will open the final type of window for entering income, the Other Income Item window, where income that is not appropriately entered in other windows can be entered for a particular month or over a particular period of time. As all our initial variables have been entered into our data file, it is now a good time to take a look at the reports that Feastudy generates for our entered data. From the Reports option of the main menu, we can select the Categorised Profit and Loss report, which shows the totals for each category of income and costs and the overall profitability of the proposal in question. It is worth noting that you can click on the links in the on-screen Profit and Loss report in Feastudy to open data entry windows for your study. For example, if we click on the link for stamp duty fees, the Duties and Conveyancing Fees window appears. Also, from the Reports option of the main menu, we can select the Itemised Profit and Loss report, which shows item by item all of the income and cost items values under each category of income and costs, as well as financial return information. The third report that can be selected from the Reports option is the Valuer's Style of Profit and Loss report, which displays the proposal's feasibility results in a way that a professional real estate valuer might summarise the results of the study. The next report is the Joint Venture report, which shows the financial returns for each of the 2 joint venture partners when a set of joint venture data has been entered for the development. The fifth report is the Categorised Cash Flow report, which displays the cash flow of each category of cost and income and interest calculations on a month-by-month basis, where the cash flow interval selector is set for monthly cash flows. The sixth report is the Itemised Cost Cash Flow report, which, as much as practicably possible, shows the cash flow of each item of cost for the development, including interest calculations. The eighth report is the Land Cost Variations report, which shows the effect of a change in the land cost on the overall internal rate of return and the margin on development cost within the defined range of variations. For the open development file, the variations report also include variations for construction costs, construction period, sell-on income, sell-on period, and borrowing interest rate variables. All reports can be viewed on screen, printed to paper or PDF, or exported to a CSV file for importing to a spreadsheet application. Graphs which display certain reports, information in illustrative charts, can be viewed on screen or printed to paper or PDF. Feastudy also has a help option available from its main menu. From this option, we can undertake searches to find out how the application deals with certain functions and defines particularly important terms. For example, if we do a search for auto window shift, we start entering the words for this in the search field here. We will now select Technical Support from the help file, so that if you wish to order a copy of Feastudy from its developers and distributors, DevFees Proprietary Limited, you can use the contact details shown here. This is the end of this presentation.